You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the last week of 2023. Can you believe it, Driftglass?
I really can't. It's...
And it's not safe for work.
No, it is really not. This is, as always, recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where the only thing we know for sure about 2024 is that it's going to be lit.
Gonna be lit.
It is, as usual, The Professional Left with your pal Driftglass and your pal Blue Gal.
Hey, Driftglass, how are ya?
This is the just entirely tangent show. We have no notes. There's nothing prepared. I'm sitting here in my underwear.
We do have
just
notes.
Boom.
We are going to indulge ourselves a little bit this week, and talk about TV and radio and movies and podcasts and stuff that we like listening to or watching.
And just FYI, to put a peg in the calendar, so you'll know that we actually are recording this on December 28th of 2023, not a month ago, and trying to pass it off with something. We'd like to mention that Nikki Haley is a moron.
She's a moron.
She does.
And trying to suck up to the worst bigots in the United States of America.
Yep. And I was reminded earlier today that not only was her really, really bad, dumb answer about slavery terrible, but it was pretty much the same answer she gave in 2010.
Yeah.
When she was running for governor. She can't not, indulge the assholes in her party.
In South Carolina, who are white supremacist Republicans. Confederates. She knows that. She knows who her audience is. Yeah.
And then the next day she does cleanup. Well, of course everybody knows it's slavery. Now that the MAGA idiots aren't listening, but it's just pathetic. She is either in the wrong political party or in the wrong decade.
In the exactly right political party.
Yeah.
I'm going to argue that she's in exactly the right political party to fuck up an answer on slavery.
Oh, no, I agree. No, I what I mean is she could answer cleanly and clearly in some other political party and not get run out of town on a rail, especially since she's a woman of color and she's a woman.
No, that's it. Her very being prevents her from being elected president of the United States.
She has to
nominated from that party. Yeah,
she has to cozy up. She has to leg hump the worst people in America to even have a shot at this.
Yep.
And you know that once she is, burned to the ground in the first 2 or 3 primaries, she's going to endorse Donald Trump. She's
going to endorse Donald Trump and hope he nominates her for vice president.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just holding up a newspaper with today's headline to prove to you that this is in fact recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance on Thursday.
And
December
the fact
23rd.
that Lauren Boebert ran away from her own district.
That's fun. That's just fun.
And, it just depends. I had a debate with one of my colleagues at Crooks and Liars about this yesterday, who my colleague is absolutely convinced that it does not matter. Lauren Boebert can move to another district in Colorado, and as long as she's got Trump's endorsement, she'll be fine. In a redder district than the one she's in.
She's got a golden
ticket. The 4th
ticket.
is apparently more red.
Yeah.
But I think she's carrying an awful lot of baggage with her to her quote-unquote new district.
Yep.
There is one candidate running, a rancher who was born in the district, went to high school in the district, has been a state rep and a state senator from that area before, and everyone in the Republican Party is only running in that district because Ken Buck is retiring. So, and it's a safe Republican district, so everybody sees a chance.
Well,
but Lauren Boebert coming in with her carpet bag and saying, "Well, I'll just take this," is insulting, and if I was a Republican voter in that district, I would find it insulting.
Well, if you were a Republican voter in that district, I wouldn't be married to you. So
no, I know. Yeah. But the point is that we don't know what Trump's endorsement will do.
True.
That tends to make people remove their brains.
All we know is it's a real cock up, and she has her hands full. So
yes. All right. There's been a lot of jokes like that. Yeah. All right. So yes. We are recording this on the 28th of December.
2023.
Youngest child has been here for Christmas and gone back to St. Louis. Oh, and someone from St. Louis sent us some very delicious cookies. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Bless your heart. They're
They
almost
were good.
they were
They
past
were
tense.
past tense were good.
Mhm.
You said that we were going to start this podcast with free verse, and what's the one issue on the top of my mind as we all exit 2024?
Right.
And for me,
Yeah.
it's karma, Republican karma, that Republicans, and particularly Republicans in the House of Representatives, have done this to themselves. They spent 14 ballots trying to elect Kevin McCarthy Speaker, or not elect him Speaker. Kevin McCarthy gave them a poison pill to vote him out. And, in how many Scaramucci's did he last? And then by the end of the year, he's gone. And not only gone from the Speaker's office, but gone from the House.
Gone. Like he was never there.
Gone.
He's John Boehner gone,
Yeah, John Boehner gone. And off to lobby and taking apparently his donors with him, which is a problem. They have a serious money problem on the Republican side.
Which is weird because of all the billionaires who back him.
Yeah, but Trump is sucking off all of the spare change. He's taking someone, Trump adjacent, is taking 4 to 5% off the top of every single Republican donation that runs through WinRed. Republican Congress and senators are required. No, I think that's wrong. I don't think the Senate, they're required to use WinRed because Mitch McConnell wasn't using WinRed in 2020, which I found fascinating. But yes, the House members and going through the RNC, you're required to use WinRed for your fundraising. So that takes 5% or 4 to 5% off the top. Every dollar you raise, a nickel goes to a Trump adjacent person.
Yeah.
And we don't know where that money goes. And then this week, the Make America Great Again nonprofit that's trying to put together policies to go along with Trump and is a Washington, D.C. based think tank nonprofit. Digby and Tengrain both wrote about this week. Trump said, "Where's my cut? I get 50% of that." Well, that's illegal. We're not allowed to give, we're a nonprofit. We're not allowed to give money to any candidate. Tough shit. Trump says.
Did
I
the
want my
law
cut. Tough shit.
Did the law suddenly start mattering to these people?
Yeah. And all of a sudden the FEC is going to do something about it. Fuck them. He doesn't care. And clearly the FEC is toothless. Just give me my 50%. And this is, an apparent billionaire who doesn't need any money demanding that the group of people who want to make it makes me sick to talk about this because we're talking as if Trump might be reelected. And again, you and I have been through this before. But here is a group of people who genuinely believe in MAGA.
Right.
And want to put together policy proposals and a think tank that will prop up Donald Trump's administration with some philosophical and legislative agenda.
Right.
Where's my cut?
Well, what he knows by their very nature, by their very buy-in to this MAGA shit, they have self-identified as the biggest chumps in the universe.
Right.
Therefore, fuck you, give me my money.
Give me my money. And you're only there because of me, and you owe me. Right. This is I am in charge of everything, and I get my cut. So, and literally asking for 50%. So yeah, my free verse, top of mind is karma. You guys did this to yourselves. You're going into 2024 with $7 million in the bank at the RNC. Anybody who is a genuine moneymaker is either Kevin McCarthy out the door,
right?
Ken Buck out the door, or is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert spending it on
stuff
and
whatever.
Ronna Romney McDaniel spending it on limousines. This is a lifestyle for them. It's not for a cause. It's a lifestyle. So they're doing this to themselves, and we've got to stay awake and alert to the fact that the media isn't going to announce the discrepancy between the two parties. They're going to both side their way through creating a horse race where there is none.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't stay wide awake and behaving with full force PTSD from 2016, which should never leave us, it could happen again.
It could. It could.
I don't think as many people are voting for Trump as a joke as did in 2016, which was his secret sauce.
No, but 2020, more of them voted for him seriously than voted for him as a joke.
Yeah, and it's whiteness.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got to be very careful about this.
It comes as a shock to lots of people, lots of very nice people, how many of their neighbors and friends and churchgoers and employers are fascists and are hungry for a dictatorship.
And this is the other thing is you and I do the steeplechase. You invented this.
I did.
Where, we're watching MSNBC and all of a sudden, let's see and just go through CNN and then go to Newsmax.
Especially during breaking news, during news that's breaking
especially
now.
when, like Rudy Giuliani, right? Being fined $148 million. That's big news on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And we're just clicking through and you get to Newsmax and it's the border.
Yeah, UFOs.
And you go to Fox and it's Jill Biden's Marxist Christmas.
Yeah, this is what they listen to. This is the world they live in.
But the fact that there is this pornographic peep show that people can click on a button and the screen goes up and there is whatever's going to make them feel good.
Right. That's right.
And it's called news. They call it news.
They dress it up. They dress it up in short skirts and fuck me pumps and call it news.
Fuck me pumps on the crotch couch.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
With legs crossed, and what's coming out of their mouth is 100% fascism.
Mm-hmm. Loving it. And there was a time, as he said, being a man, being very I don't know, like a stereotype, talking about the Roman Empire, but
yeah, you are
just mentioning the fact that as it was on the downhill slide, on the serious downhill slide, people stopped really pretending that it was about the Senate, the rule of law, and the Republic and shit.
Yeah.
It was about paying off the fucking army to kill whoever you wanted, or they'd kill you. Right. It was like recognizing where the real center of power was inside this big machine, and it was always the people with the fucking swords.
It was violence. Always. Yep. It was making sure that the violence was directed at someone other than you.
Your competitors.
Yeah.
But you if you're the head of the army, suddenly you can declare yourself Caesar.
Yep.
And promise the army a shit ton of money, and they'll march into Rome and kill the guy who's sitting in the chair and put you there. And then
the day you miss payroll,
they kill you off and they're going to the next
guy.
And
you're in a wine barrel dead. Yes.
But it was all about understanding who you have to appease to gain power. And finally, all the things we'd been telling our dear conservative friends, all the smart elite conservatives for decades, has come to pass, which is the mob is your party. The mob has always been your party. Appeasing the fucking mob has always been your party's source of strength. That's how you win elections. And I listened to a certain Never Trump podcast today that was actually an emergency podcast about Nikki Haley. And it was the two.
They did an emergency podcast about Nikki Haley. Okay.
Well, it was Nikki Haley. It was like breaking our hearts. The one good one, there's no good ones, etc. But it was Tim Miller and what's her name, whose name I can never remember, who's the gay man and the lesbian. Mm-hmm. And they were both very honest about the fact that, look, when we were young and working for Mitt Romney or John McCain, we knew they were saying things to appease the base. They had to get elected. We thought that was sophisticated strategy. We now understand that that's just terrible, that all you're doing is appeasing terrible people who are going to eventually want you to come through with closing the border and hating gay people and cutting women off from reproductive rights. And we're not doing that anymore. And the people who are trying to straddle still think in the old way that if you can just appease the mob enough, then you'll be okay, because after the election, you can do all the good, righteous, humane things you want to do. And it turns out, no, the mob runs the fucking show now. And that's my freestyle. That's where I want to start with my little freestyle, which is about a little button called AZ5.
Mm-hmm.
And AZ5 is the button, if you watch the documentary Chernobyl, not the documentary, but the dramatization.
Docudrama, yeah.
Docudrama.
Yeah.
Very good. Very extremely depressing. Very good. It's that there's a little button inside the reactor control room called AZ5. And if the reactor starts to go wrong, all the people who were in charge thought, well, you just push the button and then it stops and then you're fine. So you have a bunch of small-minded, arrogant men pushing this incredibly dangerous force to the absolute limit, past the point of being safe, in the arrogant certainty that they could just shut it off if they had to. They could just run Jeb, and then it'll all calm down. Or they can just run Chris Christie, and it'll all be fine. Mm-hmm. And there were at least a few people telling them not to do that. And then it turned out when they hit the button, it didn't work. And suddenly, the whole shit is off the map. It blows up. It contaminates everything. And the same arrogant men now go looking for scapegoats, looking for other people to blame. And I'm going to read a little something from 2014. And this is a longer post that I'll do later today or tomorrow. This is from It Ain't No Party Like a Whig Party. In 2014, you will find no mention of the terrible wingnut doomsday machine that conservatives like David Brooks eagerly helped construct and set in motion, a machine built to create precisely the havoc which Mr. Brooks now weeps over. And what I wanted to talk about was the construction of the machine that had created the modern Republican Party, which is built on an older machine, actually. The older machine it's built on is the machinery of white supremacy. If you're going to have a system in the South based on chattel slavery, which is objectively evil, you can't defend it on the basis of, I want to make a lot of money exploiting and beating and breeding human beings like animals because money, money, money. You have to build a religion around it. You have to build an ideology around it. You have to say, no, this is a Christian thing. These people are lucky to be in this country. We're giving them good Christian values. And you know what? If you read the Bible, it says very clearly, God himself wants white men to rule over everyone else. These are inferior creatures. They're basically no better than cattle. White men were put on this earth to rule over everything, and to breach that is to go against God. And that's where white supremacy comes from. That's the white supremacy theory. Okay, slavery's gone now, but the ideology, the machine they built to contain their evil, went merrily on. And then it became Jim Crow. And then it became the fucking Republican Party. And then it became the Tea Party. And now it's MAGA. The machine that modern-day Republicans built, which is all about hating liberals, owning the left, Barack Obama is a Kenyan usurper, blah, 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 all the bullshit that they've been running about the left are monsters, the Limbaugh Republican Party, the Gingrich Republican Party, the left Republican Party were a machine to cut taxes and eliminate regulations for rich people. And they did it. They got huge tax cuts for all their wealthy friends and all the companies. They deregulated the fuck out of a whole bunch of industries. They accomplished what they set out to do. But they could never have done that by selling to the mob. We want to cut taxes for rich people because money. Mm-hmm. Instead, they said, we need your votes because liberals are baby-killing monsters and we're going to stop them from killing babies. And black people are scary and they're being used by the liberals, and liberals are monsters and communists, and women are uppity, and immigrants are coming for your job. We need to spin up your hatred of all these groups so you'll go to the polls to vote for tax cuts for my rich friends. Mm-hmm. Well, they got all that. And they thought, well, okay, once I get you to the polls and once I get you voting for me after the election, I can sort of, dial it back a little bit. I cannot put all the liberals in jail like Rush Limbaugh wanted us to do. I cannot, destroy the left, censor them like Gingrich wanted us to do. I can stop calling liberals scum and filth and godless monsters and America-hating, terrorist-loving filth once the election's over. And eventually the mob said, no. You are in power because we put you there. And we put you there because you told us liberals are filthy, communist, baby-killing monsters. And we want you to make good on those promises. And Jeb couldn't do it. And that's when Donald Trump showed up. And Donald Trump was the reactor going critical. The reactor that was always there. It was always poorly maintained. This hateful machine, which I literally wrote about in a post called The Pretty Hate Machine, 18 years ago. Mm-hmm. Which depresses the shit out of me that I used a nuclear reactor and the Republican Party
right.
as a metaphor for what was obviously happening in the GOP. And then 15 years later, a bunch of never-Trumpers are like, you know what? You know, we just noticed the Republican Party was always this unstable, racist mess. I wonder how that got to be that way. I wonder why no one stopped it. I wonder where all the warnings were. Well, you created this machine to fuck up people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't care until it started fucking up people like you. Then it became a disaster. Once it blew up, then it became a disaster. Once you started hitting that button and nothing happened, and the assholes kept just voting for Donald Trump, and you started looking around for scapegoats. Who's to blame for this machine that's running out of control because the button we're pushing, the Chris Christie button and the Jeb button, ain't working? What went wrong? Well, you know, it all started in 2016, and some mysterious force took over the Republican Party. And, you know, a lot of liberals drove these good Americans into the arms of Donald Trump. Or maybe it's economic anxiety. Or maybe it's something. Or no, it's the racist core of your party that you pandered to for 50 fucking years coming back to haunt you. And that is a conversation that no never-Trumper wants to have with anybody. Because we bring receipts to the party. And that's what's top of mind for me today.
Well, and going back and thinking about, this started with the escalator ride.
Right.
Or 2015, you know. They've completely erased this. The thing that, and I realize that this goes back to Goldwater, right? At least, or earlier than Goldwater.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a moment for me where I said to myself, shit, these people are crazy. And there is no controlling them. And to me, it was the Purple Heart Band-Aids.
Yes.
At the Bush convention.
Mm-hmm.
Making fun of the military record of John Kerry.
Uh-huh.
And the sacrifices that he made, the physical sacrifices that he made.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in Vietnam. Yes, he turned against the war, etc. But you're talking about a military person with a military family who won a Purple Heart, and you are absolutely making fun of him in public,
right,
for that sacrifice, for that medal,
to valorize and re-inaugurate or renominate a dry drunk halfwit who used his daddy's connections to say the fuck out of that war.
Right, exactly, that same war, yes. And it was fine to call Bill Clinton a draft dodger for 8 years as well.
Sure. Pot smoking, draft dodger with his lesbian murdering wife.
Right.
And because none of that's going to come back to haunt us, Blue Guy. We're not going to have to pay for any of this. It's all going to run just fine because there's this magic button.
Yeah.
And if it gets out of control, you know, we'll run. I know Fred, good old Fred.
Yeah.
We'll put in somebody. Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney will calm everything down. Mitt Romney knows how to run to the right and be severely conservative, but then he'll cut back. And it was always
and we'll still get deregulation and tax cuts, which is all we care about. Yeah,
that's the goal. Yeah. And the point being, all the elites who were cocky and arrogant and confident they could control this shit are now all over MSNBC.
Oh, I know. And I don't want to forget either, and this has gone completely down the memory hole. So much has gone completely down the memory hole, but remembering December of 2016 and who went to Trump Tower. A lot of people went to Trump Tower looking for cabinet appointment. But Mitt Romney went to Trump Tower to shake the president-elect's hands.
Looking for a job.
Bill Gates, Peter Thiel, Al Gore, Jeff Zucker. All of a sudden, Trump has power. Fine. We'll suck up to that. We'll shake his hand. We'll show up for photographs at the elevator of Trump Tower and walk through that swamp and pay tribute
to the new emperor.
Right. Until they realized, we really can't, you know, and it didn't take long. The Muslim ban happened 8 weeks later.
Well, and jump ahead to January 6th, which is when the core of the GOP, the mob, shows up to attack the shell of the GOP, which is the Congress.
Yeah.
And and look at all the insurrectionists who now hold public office,
Mm-hmm.
and look how desperate Republicans are to forget it or overdo it or lay a blanket over it or divert people's attention with a bunch of bullshit about Joe Biden, because they know the people who knock down the door and threaten to murder them, that's their party.
Right.
And
right.
they have no
Yeah.
illusions about what Republicans are or how they behave or who the base is. The only people who continue to lie about the nature of the Republican Party are the established mainstream political media, who are terrified. I'm convinced are terrified these people are going to come for them in their homes.
Yeah.
And they don't dare cross them, because if you cross them, one day you're going to end up like Mike Pence with a noose outside your house and a mob calling for your blood. And you have no preparation for that, because you've been living a privileged life as a pundit, being wrong about everything, and still
You've
getting
been
a
wrong
paycheck.
about everything for much longer than 2016. Right.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
All right. So let's move on
Yes.
to a critical breakdown, scene by scene, of
No.
everything we've watched. No,
Wrong.
this is, well, as it says in my notes, this is a full service podcast.
I love you, Driftglass. You're so smart.
And today,
because this is a full service podcast, we're going to talk about all the other stuff we paid attention to in 2023.
that's right.
Not the best of movies or TV, but what we were watching and enjoying in between writing about politics and media and cranking out these award-ready podcasts twice a week and all the other details of life out here in the cornfield. And we were watching a lot of the same things that everybody else has on their top 10 lists.
Right.
And so forth. And so, we'll go through this. These notes are 5 pages long. We're going to find a way to publish these somewhere, probably just on our blog. So Blue Gal or Driftglass, if you Google that, I think we'll put these lists. Is that okay with you? You're wincing at me.
Well, I'm thinking we start with True Social, and we get a show on Rumble. We get Glenn Greenwald.
There you go.
Yeah, Glenn Greenwald can put them up on Rumble, and then we'll work backwards.
No, but if you Google Driftglass or you Google Blue Gal, you'll find our blogs. And if you're driving while you're listening to this, or
do it.
Standing in an airport trying to get home, this list will be at our blog so that you can go back and find out, oh yeah, this is the one that I missed and I really want to try.
And
check
this
it
is
out.
not a spreadsheet with ratings and references.
No, it is not.
And notes. No, this is just, hey, do you remember we watched this show? This is,
we watched
that
the
was
show
this year?
of this movie and it was really good. And
Holy crap.
so we're gonna start with. You go ahead and start, Driftglass.
With science fiction. We're going to start with science fiction. Silo, which I didn't want to watch because, oh, Jesus, another show about blah, blah, blah. And you know what? You coaxed me into doing it. And it's
because I was familiar with the books.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's really good.
It is really good.
Rebecca Ferguson plays a very suspicious, cynical engineer turned marshal, and she's the marshal until other things happen, named Juliet Nichols. And it's all about life inside a silo that's dozens, or I don't know how, 50, 70, 80, 200 stories deep underground. And it's a generation story. If you've ever read a Robert Heinlein story, excuse me for putting it.
By the way, our podcast next year will be called "This is based on a Robert Heinlein." This reminds me of a Robert Heinlein.
This reminds me of a Robert Heinlein story.
Yeah.
There's a story called Universe, which is about a generation ship, which is a type of slower than light speed ship, because getting to stars is difficult, which is gigantic, which is the size of a small moon. It's hollow inside. And it sometime during the trip, which is going to take multiple generations, which is why it's called a generation ship, something bad happens, something catastrophic happens. And there's a mutiny, and there's something about mutants because it's radiation leakage, and the word mutie becomes a blending of those two words. But people forget they're on a ship. And they forget they're in space, and they forget they're on a mission, and they lose track of what the plan was. And Silo is very much that show. The Silo is clearly a massive underground shelter that was created to protect people from some surface catastrophe. People have been down there for hundreds of years, I guess.
Yeah.
And at some point in the past,
multiple generations. There are children on this ship. There are children in this silo. There are grandparents and great grandparents on this silo as well. So yes.
And something catastrophic happened in the past that caused them to forget why they're there, and that there's an outside world and there might be other people, and they have a religion based around the silo and duties to the silo, and it's all this.
They
is the
grow
whole
corn
universe.
in the silo. Inside the silo they grow plants and so forth. this is based, and there's going to be a couple of themes that run through this whole show. One is based on a book, and
yes,
we have found, I think you and I agree, Driftglass, that particularly science fiction shows, but other shows that are actually based on some writing that has been published, tend to have a much clearer sense of purpose.
Yeah,
whether they stick entirely to the book or not, it's much easier for them to sort of encapsulate the story. We know what the story is we're trying to tell. Yeah. This Silo is based on the Wool series by Hugh Howey. And so there are parts of it where it's not the book, and there's parts of it that are. Yeah. But it is based on a book. The other theme that's going to go through this podcast today, Emmy award-winning actresses in particular.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
This was a year for women to act their asses off.
Yeah.
And I looked through our list and I'm just like, who's going to get the Emmy for Best Actress? They should just give out 10 awards because there's so many talented women just able to act for in on the small screen. It's fantastic.
And I just want to add,
Rebecca Ferguson just does an amazing job being in love, fighting, being terrorized by the future, being terrorized by the past, being a young person, being an older person. She's just in authority or not, a victim, leader, etc. She just full range.
Really good. She's
full range.
She is. And it's unfair to make this comparison, but she's she's Ripley. She's Sigourney Weaver. From Alien. She's the badass, competent, qualified, supremely well acted female lead of this series and carrying it. And just to add to, because several of our favorite shows are not based on novels or stories, but the thing about picking a novel or series is if the writer is halfway competent, why would you do something based on work that is terrible, has already thought for years and years about all the twists and turns and complications and worked out the whole story for you. This is why Game of Thrones went off the rails in the last year and a half.
They didn't have any books left.
They ran out of stories. So they started making stuff up, and it wasn't terrible, but it really, really wasn't good. And the original source material is the product of one person sitting in a room for years working out the structure, enough, powerful enough, strong enough characters, good enough to carry an entire novel. And you were not simply, but you're transferring all of that. You're inheriting all of that infrastructure to build a beautiful story for the screen. And in Silo, hats off. My wife talked me into watching it, and I'm grateful she did. Well,
and another theme is set design and the revolution in computer modeling and expanding worlds. And this is a very non-expansive world. It's very contained, but you are taken from the top to the bottom, to literally below the bottom of this silo. And the lighting, the set design, the mood, you can smell certain areas of this silo watching it. So again, hats off to the set designers and the CGI artists who are putting all of these amazing things together for TV. Next one.
After you.
Well, this was released in late 2022, but we did watch it within the framework of this podcast. Pale Blue Eye, which is a Edgar Allan Poe military academy story. And Driftglass is a big Edgar Allan Poe fan.
I am. Big.
And I think I've told this story before, but for Driftglass's birthday, I got him this little, because his birthday is the day before Halloween. And this craft store decided to go full Edgar Allan Poe this year. So I had this little cookie tin, and it had Edgar Allan Poe's face on it.
Yeah.
And, cheap thing. But I got it for him, and he opened it up, and it's a cookie tin with Edgar Allan Poe's face on it. And he looked at it, he said, "Oh, I want my ashes to go in this."
Yes, I do.
So we've got your urn picked out. That's very Poe to have your urn already picked out.
Well, and then bury me prematurely before I'm actually dead.
If we put your ashes in it, it won't be premature.
But if you hear me going, hey, wait a minute.
Don't put me in there yet. Yeah.
Double check. They used to have that, I believe, in Poe's time. I mean, this did happen to people. They used to have.
They had a bell.
They had a little grave bells. I forget what they were called. Funeral bells, which were literal bells on strings that led to the coffin. In case you weren't really dead, you could ring the bell and go, hey, 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 and they dig you back up. I'm not sure how often that happened, but it was the thing that people feared. And the critics were, but I liked it, and I liked watching it. I think my sister was like, why did you recommend this to me? On the other hand, spoke to my siblings earlier this week, and they were going over movies they saw, and they couldn't figure out why we recommended RRR to them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they watched it in 2 sittings, because it's very long. Like, why did my brother recommend this to me? Well, okay, we'll check out the second half. Oh, I get it. I get it. So some of them you just have to lean into a little bit.
And that's a 3-hour movie we've watched twice so far.
We have. Yeah. And it's really good. Now, speaking of Poe, this week we polished off in 3 days, I think.
Oh, I think 2.5. Yeah.
The Fall of the House of Usher, which was awesome.
Yeah. And this is something that I would never have watched in a million years because I don't like horror and I don't like jump scares and I'm not a horror fan. But this is so literary.
Oh, please. It just does for me the whole thing. It gives me not just Edgar Allan Poe, but it's got Easter eggs and references and characters. And if you're familiar with The Fall of the House of Usher, the story, it's a novella. It's about the Usher family, about Roderick Usher, and a friend visits, and is his sister really dead or whatever? And the house falls down. End of story. It's been done as an opera a couple of times. It's a story, it's etc. And what the creators of this series did was integrate 7 different Poe stories into one long arc about the Usher family and the destruction of the Usher family. And each of the episodes is a Poe short story. Which
and the Ushers are the Sacklers, by the way.
Right. Exactly.
They're the pharmaceutical villains, which is the way they modernized this. And that's all I'm going to say. But
And all the actors in this are great.
Yep.
All of them. The pillars were, I want to mention Bruce Greenwood as Roderick Usher, who was amazing. And here's the thing. This is a very COVID story. Because it's mostly 2 or 3 people in rooms talking. And it's and if you can get me jazzed about 2 or 3 people in rooms talking, I'm in. And it was. Mary McDonnell as Madeline Usher is amazing.
She's amazing. Again, here's another Emmy. Here's an Emmy I'm handing out.
Give her an Emmy.
To Mary McDonnell. Here you go.
Carl Lumley as the person investigating the murders or the mishaps or whatever, who's been after Roderick Usher for 40 years. They started off as friends, and there's betrayal, and he's been after him, and he's a detective, and his name is C. Auguste Dupin, who is Poe's detective.
Right.
And one of the short stories that are integrated is Murders in the Rue Morgue, which is a Dupin story. Mark Hamill as their evil lawyer. Arthur Pym, which is a Poe story. Carla Gugino.
By the way, he just chews up scenery.
He does.
Mark Hamill just chews up scenery in this.
He's great.
Yeah.
Black fedora, black outfit, black gloves, talking
very
like
dour.
This the whole time.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, and I don't regret anything. The one character who's not really from Poe, but really kind of overhangs all the Poe stories is Carla Gugino as Verna. And Verna is an anagram for Raven. And it's the Raven. And she is the one character who is not quite of the Poe genre, because she is,
but she ties everything together.
She does. She's the spine of the story.
Right.
She's an eternal being who grants wishes and makes you pay terribly for them. You might know her as Satan. I don't know, but she is definitely. She's great in this. She's just great.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it's got that Poe thing where, you can't tell if it's a dream or if it's real or if you're asleep or if it's awake, and is the person dead or are they not? It's got that whole weird, nightmarish, dreamlike Gothic quality to it. And so Verna looks like a hallucination, except she starts showing up in photographs. And she starts showing up in videos. And then you realize, she's real in this world, but is she? And my favorite, not my favorite of all of them, Michael Trucco, who you might know from Battlestar Galactica, plays Rufus Griswold. Rufus Griswold is not a Poe character. Rufus Griswold is the person who got control of Poe's literary estate and destroyed his reputation after he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
He is the villain of Poe's actual life. The guy who became his literary executor, fucked up his stories, invented a lot of really, really bad shit about Poe that wasn't true, and because he hated it, and set about destroying his reputation. So he is one of the villains of the story. So it's not just Poe's stories, but actual people from his life or actual people from his experience who are being woven into this longer tapestry, and they pull it off. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The story actually works.
And this was directed by Mike Flanagan, who is a well-known horror director. He did The Haunting of Hill House, Dr. Sleep, Oculus, Ouija, Origin of Evil. So he has a lot of experience doing horror. But he doesn't do jump scares that are just there to scare you. The jump scares in The Fall of the House of Usher are all very meaningful. And again, as Driftglass says, we don't know if it's a dream or is he fantasizing or is he on drugs. Whoever is having these jump scares happen to them, we're just not sure why. But they're very connected to the story and important to the plot and how the story's told. And so this is not my type of thing. If you told me, oh, you're gonna want to watch this thing about, evil people getting comeuppance and being haunted and having spooky houses and but it's a family drama. It is
really. It is
really good. Really, really good.
It is Gothic Succession.
Yeah, it's Gothic Succession.
It really is.
It is.
And again, it has the Poe quality of dreamlike, nightmarish, but still grounded in the real world. And it also has, there's, I'm not going to go into all the characters, but there's a character named Annabelle Lee, and that's a Poe poem.
And there's a lot of poetry in this of Poe.
There is.
I asked you when we were done watching the last episode, do you think that this is an appropriate tribute to Edgar Allan Poe?
Yes, 100%. 100%. The eulogy that a pastor is giving in a particular scene is from a poem by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
And there is poetry, original Poe poetry being quoted by people in appropriate places throughout the story.
I just hope, we always kind of make fun about my mom being up in heaven at the Rainbow Bridge, helping all of the nervous animals cross over. Right. And I say that with my tongue in cheek. I don't know about living up in the clouds or anything, but I do hope and pray that Edgar Allan Poe, the tragic figure that he was, knows that there were very gifted writers and filmmakers who clearly loved his oeuvre.
Yes. And still do.
And devoted their talents to putting together this show that carefully and with great reverence brings all of his art into a new piece of art without denigrating in any way the tremendous talent that Edgar Allan Poe was.
Oh, and by the way,
it's a tremendous tribute to his work.
By the way, as we were talking, a large cat battered his way through the door and into the room.
A black cat?
A black cat named Brock battered his. Are you talking about Poe? You're talking about Poe? Because Poe's my guy. Poe's definitely my guy.
19-pound black cat came in to talk to you. Yeah.
And the stuff. Oh man, it's just so good. It's good if you haven't read a whole lot of Poe. If you know what the Telltale Heart is, that's great.
I'm not a Poe reader like Driftglass is. And Driftglass kept telling me, that's a Poe thing. That's a Poe thing. Oh, there's another Easter egg. And I said, shut up. You don't need to tell me that because I'm getting it.
Right.
I'm getting it from this. When like you said, when the minister reads something during a funeral, it's a poem. You know it is. So,
And there's a moment where some bells are jingling very quietly. Like that is straight out of this particular story that I'm not going to spoil for you.
Yeah.
But it's so good. And again, I'm deeply read on the subject of Edgar Allan Poe. I know who Arthur Pym was. I know what the narrative was. My wife got me a biography of Edgar Allan Poe. So I'm like a total nerd on the subject. I've written stories about the death of Edgar Allan Poe, which are, by the way, really good. If you're listening, you're a publisher, it's a really good story, and I'm trying to find a home for it. But it's great. But if you know nothing about it, or if you just read it like 20 years ago, one of the stories that you had to read in English, it's still good. The acting is good. It's just wonderful, and we can
and it is a way of honoring him that is fresh and new and unique, and that's terrific. I hope every writer gets people doing this for them, especially someone who died so tragically as Edgar Allan Poe. So we've talked about that. The next one on our list is an animated show called Blue Eye Samurai, which is on everybody's top 10 list. It's on Netflix. Just go watch it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't let it being a cartoon fool you. It is an adult show.
Very much an adult show. Yeah. It's violent too. It's cartoon. It's
violence is another theme that's going to run through this. And I'm sort of embarrassed as to how many of these shows are violent. They just are. Yeah.
For a woman who doesn't like wealth porn or violence,
it's almost all wealth porn and violence.
All the House of Usher was both.
Both.
However, we actually talked about Blue Eye Samurai with our paterfamilias just this morning.
Yeah, my dad.
And we're both. And I can tell I'm turning into a bit of a curmudgeon because my immediate reaction was, "Oh, a cartoon? Really? You want me to watch a cartoon?" But my better angels prevailed and urged me to watch it, and we just sat watching this thing, jaw dropped, because it's so beautifully done, wonderfully rendered. It's such an adult story. It's so compelling, and it's just great. Go watch it. Go watch it right now. And speaking of which, there's a show called Fargo.
You're kidding.
Yes, which is kind of hit and miss during the seasons. It's good and bad and good and bad.
We've watched all of them. I'm not going to lie. We've watched every Fargo.
Yeah, some of them are okay.
But this one, boy, they went back to the Coen brothers this season.
Their
back
theme
to their
anyway.
Roots.
Yeah, yes, they did. And it's got great acting in it. Juno Temple basically holds up
another Emmy.
Show.
Another Emmy to another woman, Juno Temple. She should get another. Just hand it to her.
You might know her from a show called Ted Lasso.
Yeah, she is the entrepreneur in Ted Lasso.
Yeah, and she is so goddamn good in this.
She's so good. Yep.
And the incredibly handsome John Hamm plays a really evil fucker.
Yeah,
and he's really good at
it. You and I sort of imagined ourselves in the room with him reading the script and calling his agent, said, "Oh yeah, I'll do this.
I want in.
This is a juicy role for me. I will do this.
I am not a pretty face. I am an actor, and I would like to be. An actor.
I can be pure evil. Yes.
But it has a certain Poe-like, and I'm going to be a little recency bias because we watched both of these things recently. It has a certain Poe-like quality to it in that there's a certain surrealness to it. A certain kind of, are you dreaming? Is this really happening? The violence is all exaggerated.
There
are actual monsters in this that, come out of the Middle Ages practically.
Well, and there's an actual Halloween episode.
Yeah.
That people are in costume, and so you don't know who is who and what is what. Yeah. So
and you can see there's little stingers in the music from The Shining, and there's little moments that you can tell are like very deliberately intended to make you think of this other thing. They're not accidental because nothing on the screen is accidental, but it's all appreciated deeply. And it's Fargo season 5, I think, and it's damn good.
And Juno Temple. Another, there has to be a table of Emmys for women this year.
Ladies, women.
Give it to them. And she is one of them.
Yep.
We just watched the last episode of Slow Horses today.
Yep. We should spoil the whole thing for you. So
no. But I will say, speaking of violence, and like I said, I am embarrassed that I'm recommending so many shows that are violent. But I think we are living through an era right now where our hunger for justice is so intense and so unsatisfied that the reason we're seeing so much violence on television is we want the bad guys to get it.
To lose.
And there's a point in this show, I'm not going to say anything more than there's a point in this show where someone gets shot in the head. And I looked at you and I said, he deserved that.
Deserved it.
It's like, I couldn't
Linger on
believe
that.
I was talking that way, but it's a character on TV who's evil.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you're with the demand that this bad person get it.
Right.
You know? And the writers have built it up to where you hate this guy.
Oh yeah.
And that's drama. That's, you know, since ancient Rome and theater and so forth, you want the bad guy to get it.
And honestly,
this satisfies that. Yeah.
I am opposed to gratuitous violence.
Right.
And the violence so far in these shows is not gratuitous. It is oftentimes a little hard to stomach.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something in the first episode of The Fall of the House of Usher, which is, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that's pretty like, oh, Jesus. But the plot demands it. It is not thrown in there just to make you go, ooh. There's an actual need for this thing to be shown this way in the plot. And they don't shy away from it because it's a show for adults. Yeah, Slow Horses checks
again
all my boxes.
Based on books, right?
Based on books,
based very specifically on books.
It checks every box. It checks all my boxes.
It does. And can I say there was Driftglass makes fun of me because I read a lot of Reddit. That's a lot of how I stay informed about pop culture is to read Reddit. And there is a Slow Horses Reddit where someone was complaining about the fact that Gary Oldman isn't on the screen enough for them. But they love Gary Oldman's performances so much. And why isn't he in every scene? Because he's so good. There's a very specific reason why he's not in every scene.
Yeah.
And you need him to be peppered in because he's so entertaining, but they don't waste that.
Right. It's seasoning.
And the beauty of the show, season 4 is already in the can, ready to go.
Right.
They are filming this when Gary Oldman is available to do it.
That's right.
And he loves doing it. And there's nothing about his character. And if you haven't watched Slow Horses yet, go ahead. I'm telling you to go get Apple TV. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that. Sorry. But there's no way that Gary Oldman will age out of playing this character.
No.
Or get too fat to play this character. Or in any way be
disqualified.
Less.
Yeah.
He can play this until he dies. He can be in a wheelchair and play this character and be 90 years old and still be Lamb, right? He can. This is something he can play for life. It doesn't require a lot of makeup. He gets to be a dick.
Right. He gets to be a slob and a dick.
He gets to be funny.
And he gets to be funny. And he gets to be the smartest person in every room.
Absolutely, the smartest person in England. Absolutely.
Yeah. And is stuck in this weird place where he hates everybody around him, but they're my responsibility, so I gotta look after him. And it's this. First of all, he's going to keep making them as long as they keep writing them. So he likes doing this, and you can tell. You can tell on some of these shows, the actors are having such fun playing with each other.
Right.
They're just they're just enjoying the work.
Kristen Scott Thomas, who is, I've always thought was one of the most beautiful people in the world.
Yeah.
And she plays a very uneven villain heroine, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's a mix. She's a complicated character.
She's amoral and will do whatever's necessary to advance
her career and for her life and for her and she looks great doing it. And again, the costumes and the set design in this, comparing Lamb's office to the MI5 office.
Yeah, her office.
Her office, which is
sterile.
Pristine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and to not to give anything away, because this is not a spoiler show as much as possible, but she is in competition like two emperors or empresses over a prize. And there's a period during this season when they are talking about
two people in a room talking
in a very clinical way about the mayhem that's going on elsewhere, and very calmly talking about it. And it is a payoff of something that happened 2 seasons ago.
Right.
And the story is so well balanced. You have a season-long story. Here are the characters. Here's the thing that you got to do. Here's the MacGuffin you have to retrieve. Here's the bad guys for this season. And the ongoing lives and tribulations of the characters across multiple seasons,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
balancing
mm-hmm.
those two so that you have a really good, really fast moving. I mean, these people run a lot.
Yeah,
And they get,
and this is 6 seasons and out, 6 episodes and out.
but
yeah,
it's breakneck pace, but there's pauses for character development that tell the entire story very well over
Absolutely.
one season. Also build the characters up so that next season and the season after that, Jonathan Pryce shows up, and his character
complicated. He's a complicated man.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But love it. Just love it.
I love it, and I love how you might think a character is no longer in the show, and all of a sudden, whether their character is alive or dead, it's not haunting, but you know that the people who knew this character are affected.
Right.
And so there's such a heart to this show.
Right.
There are broken hearts in this show, throughout this show. In fact, I think that's one of the themes, is the slow horses, the people at Slough House, are broken people.
All these wounded, broken people.
Yeah.
All these misfits.
And you have to, and you're rooting for them to get better and make it through. And the bad guys who try to stop them, when they're thwarted, you go, that person deserved that.
Even when it's just an accident. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah. People, speaking of shows that I absolutely was not going to watch.
Yeah.
And then I saw it got 98 on Rotten Tomatoes. I went, all right, I'll give it a chance. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Murder at the End of the World.
Yeah.
Which I believe is on Hulu. I think that's right.
I think you're right.
Emma Corrin, who played Princess Diana in The Crown. I can't believe it. Because she's this punk girl, basically.
Yeah, she's really good, too.
Hacker
really
punk girl in Murder at the End of the World. I wasn't going to watch it because I thought this is wealth porn. And I'm not a wealth porn person. This is why we didn't watch Succession. I didn't want to watch people in fancy planes and so forth. I'm not interested in that. But this is not hacker goes off to a billionaire's mansion and you're watching the mansion for 6 episodes. Right. This is Driftglass called the billionaires that's in this story, because that is the plot. She's a hacker. She goes through a series of events to a billionaire's hideaway in Iceland, and there's a murder, and she has to solve it.
Which is all in the title. It's Murder at the End of the World. Right. Nothing given, nothing away.
Clive Owen plays the billionaire, and Driftglass called him Elon Zuckerberg Jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is pretty much what he is. Elon Jobs is a tech billionaire who has all kinds of plans for how to survive climate change and so forth.
And there's something that, youngest child and I were talking about this yesterday, and I recall Spider Robinson, one of my favorite writers who doesn't write very much anymore, talking about the F. Scott Fitzgerald quote, "The rich are different than you and me."
Yeah, yeah.
And then Hemingway come back, they have more money, but there's a qualitative difference in the mindset of someone who has billions of dollars at their disposal and has power, godlike power, that you will never understand because they are operating so far above you that they can do things that are unimaginable.
Right.
And how do you work on that? And there's a very strong Stanley Kubrick element in here. That's all I'll say.
Yep. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it is extremely tense. It is an Agatha Christie novel.
Yeah,
a bunch of people and a murder,
lots
and
of
they're
suspects and a murder, and
they're stuck together in a house in the middle of nowhere. There's no way out.
But again, here's another Emmy on my table for Emma Corrin, who
she's amazing.
Carries this. There are several stories going on at once because it does flash back to her earlier life, and there's a love story.
Yes, there is.
In the midst of all of this murder and tech and hideaways and Icelandic snowstorms and so forth, there's a love story. And it's so human. And she is so flawed. And you will love her and be sad for her and be thrilled for her at certain points and grow with her throughout this series. it's a romance in addition to being a mystery.
Well, and like The Fall of the House of Usher, in a slightly different way, it's a story about a writer.
Yes, it is.
And she is first and foremost. I mean, the nothing given away. The opening of this is her reading a story.
Yeah.
And
a story that she wrote, and that's the opening of the story of the whole show. Yes,
that's all I'll say. That's all either the rest are going to say. But it is integrating the idea of writer as character.
Yeah,
into
it's
a book.
Almost again. And there's so many that we when we watched this, we were pointing to all sorts of source material. They owe Agatha Christie $5. They owe Stanley Kubrick $5. They owe Watson and Holmes $5. This is a writer narrating the story as a writer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but it's wonderful. And I'm glad that Rotten Tomatoes came out with an ad showing that it had good score on Rotten Tomatoes, because I looked at the ads for that initially and I was like, I can pass on that one. Well, and I'm really glad I didn't.
And one thing we should say about, before we move on to the next 20 pages of our review, is that we part of it is me being a curmudgeon and being, I don't want to learn anything new. I don't want, that's not true. I'm open to all kinds of new experiences and things. However, we do have to budget our time pretty carefully.
Oh, honestly.
We don't have time for the fire hose of everything out there. Plus, as I said, podcasting twice a week and all the research that goes into that and the writing that we both do every day and just the daily life of daily life. However, there is something going on in movies and on television that is rare and beautiful. And I have no time for snobs who are like, I don't watch television. Television is
it's a golden age for television.
No. And the point being that a lot of these television series are novels. They're based on the thing that you want to do because television is so hoi polloi. No, bad television is. I cannot remember the last time I watched garbage TV, other than doing my, the steeplechase to see what's on Fox.
Oh yeah, to see what's on Newsmax.
And occasionally I watch the news in the morning. And honestly, if I'm up early in the morning and it's on, I'll watch, old time TV, really old time TV. I watched some old British science fiction movie from the 1950s about a fungus that's killing people in London, because that's just good fun. But honestly, if the bear
we're working
were
our way through the 1960s Mission Impossible shows.
We are. And these are things like, what do you want to do? Well, I'm tired and it's been a long day. Let's watch a Mission Impossible. And those are fun too. But
54 minutes and out.
Let's go talk about my favorite show of the year, probably.
Oh yeah. You love this show. I like this show a lot too.
I do. I will tell you. It's The Bear. It's The Bear season 2, because they couldn't possibly top the awesomeness of season 1, but they did.
And they did.
They did. And they couldn't possibly have topped it without basing it on, source material that's been well worked out, but they did.
They did.
And when I was in Burlington, Iowa with my brother and sister, my brother's a chef and my sister is a great cook as well. And we were all hanging out and we were all exhausted because we'd spent the day doing stuff that I'm sure I've talked about before, but we were all real tired and we were only going to be there for a couple of days. It's like, okay, we have cable television in this place. We're going to watch one show. What's it going to be? Well, obviously it's going to be The Bear, right? Mm-hmm. Because we have to, because we're all just, this is great. And it came down to, are we going to watch the one about the fishes or the one about the forks?
The fishes or the forks?
And for my money, the forks is the superior episode. But the fishes won, and I didn't feel cheated because it was fucking awesome. It was so stressful. I don't know if you know families like this or been to dinners like this. It was all heightened and weird, but it was so incredibly stressful all the way through. And again, if they're handing out Emmys, first of all, you get Eben Moss-Bachrach, who has the best character arc of anybody in any show this season.
Yep.
His transformation over the course of the season is amazing. To make me think that this cynical asshole who has no place in the world,
who's dumb, who's too stupid to run the register.
But he's not dumb. He's quoting like Philip K. Dick and Ayn Rand to people, so he's not dumb. But he's like, I know guys like this. I know guys like this from Chicago.
They think they know everything, and they're kind
assholes. They're kind of smarmy assholes who are kind of on the backside of life, and they're and they're not going anywhere. Yeah. And Jeremy Allen White was amazing. Ayo Edebiri, I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly, is the third pillar holding this show up. They're all great. They're all great. But I'm happy with these three, right? I'm happy. I'm good. These three working with everybody else, coming in and out. And then suddenly they hit me in one show with Bob Odenkirk and John Mulaney and Sarah Paulson and John Mulaney again and Jamie Lee Curtis.
And Jamie Lee Curtis gets 3 Emmys off of the table just for this one episode of this one show.
My blood pressure went up just watching her act.
Yep.
It was so painful and so brilliant. And it was such a different than anything she's ever done.
And you know this woman.
Absolutely. Oh,
I mean, we all know that this person intimately, you know.
I may have been, this person might have been part of my family at one point. And is no longer. It was
also, don't forget Lisa Colon-Zayas, who plays veteran chef Tina Marrero. Who, not in the Fishes episode.
Right.
But in one of the episodes, she sings Before the Next Teardrop Falls at a karaoke bar.
Yeah.
And this is a person who is a blue-collar cook, line cook. And she belts out this song, and the audience is blown away, and the viewer is blown away. Because this actress can sing.
The audience, you don't mean the audience
I mean the audience at the karaoke bar.
And the people, because she's older by a generation than the people she was asked to go out with. And they're expecting her to be the old lady, kind of like, oh, God, we got to bring her along, I suppose. And she slays this song. And she is so good. And it was like, you mean she can sing too? Well, of course she can, because these are all like really, really great actors. And then suddenly, in one episode, Olivia Colman shows up for 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh, really? Really?
Yep.
Okay. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Season 3, whatever you want. What, you need my blood? You need a kidney? Sure. Take it. It's just wonderful. Every show made me happy.
Yep.
It made me the show existing in my old stomping ground with people whose personalities I recognize, and this able to turn these characters into human beings so quickly that I care about them. I really care what happens to them. Is a miracle. Is a miracle that usually only happens in novels. And there it is on my TV every week, and I cannot wait for season 3 because I now trust these people to give me a season 3 that will measure up to 1 and 2.
For this next show, I want to say something from a personal basis. It's Poker Face, which season 2 came out this year, I believe, in February, March. I have a girlfriend who comes over Saturday afternoon and we knit together, and we usually are watching a murder show. We've watched a lot of Midsummer Murders. Usually it's some sort of former PBS or former English BBC murder show. And I decided to add Poker Face to the list. And Poker Face is very much a Crime of the Week show. It's a definite and very conscious homage to, I'm sorry, I'm going to have a brain fart now. Columbo.
Oh, Columbo. Yeah. Font and everything.
It's flat out honoring Columbo. But it's Natasha Lyonne playing the Columbo character. And we watched 2 episodes of Poker Face, and my girlfriend said, I can't handle this show because it is a howdunit, not a whodunit.
Yep.
And you actually go through the process from the murderer's standpoint to see the murder done.
Right.
And it's a good person getting murdered, not a bad person getting murdered.
That's right.
And so it was just too upsetting. Like, I can't handle this. This is not coming over and knitting and having fun. This is watching a murder take place. And it was very, it was not the kind of show where, like Midsummer Murders, where there's, somebody is found in the woods dead and you don't they're not a person, they're a body. This is, you get to know the person before they're murdered in Poker Face. And so I'm saying that because I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think Poker Face is for everybody for that reason, but it's brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Brilliantly done.
It rests a lot on the guest stars. There's a villain of the week or a hero of the week, and there's a reversal. And oftentimes there's a reversal of, you think, they're not good at all. Oh, I thought they were good, but they're not. And a season-long plot, because she is not Columbo. She's not a cop.
No.
And she's on the run from a bad guy. So there has to be a season-long plot that keeps her moving from town to town,
Mm-hmm.
where she happens to find some crime going on.
Find a murder or something.
Murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the that's the conceit of the plot, and I'm happy to go along with her wherever she wants to go.
Right.
It's a fun show to watch.
Tremendously talented. Another Emmy. This one goes to Natasha Lyonne.
Yes.
We're not running out of Emmys for women.
No.
There's many more.
The next show is we took Jack Loudon, who is the other supporting actor from Slow Horses, and we put him in England during the gold heist, the massive gold heist, the largest gold heist in history. And we created a series called The Gold, which is the true story of the largest gold theft in English history, which was an accident. And all of these characters that got pulled into, what do you do when you have a shit ton of gold? How do you get rid of it? How do you process it? How do you turn it into something that you can sell? And the entire spider web of connections you have to make overseas, and the fake businesses you have to set up, and all the people in the upper class of England, you have to sort of, somebody up there has to be part of your plot, and you have to invent this as you go along because you didn't intend to steal this. It just was there and you took it. And Hugh Bonneville, who you might know from Downton Abbey, is there as the seasoned elder detective who is really good. It's a wonderful show. It's a true story. I believe there's going to be a second season to this. I don't know how they can do it, but I got my fingers crossed.
Well, Hugh Bonneville is going to continue to investigate whatever. And like you said, we're along for the ride on that one. Yeah.
Crossover episode with Natasha Lyonne. You know,
I don't know about that. But
well, there was an episode, if I recall correctly, when Columbo goes to London. And he goes to the Wax Museum, and he uses his trick of flicking a marble, but in this case it was a clue, into an umbrella being held by one of the dummies that is the cause of confession by the bad guy. So there is the possibility of an English, except as I recall it, the gold takes place during the 80s and 90s. And so I guess Poker Face is out, but you know, hope springs eternal. We're going to skip lightly over Bodies because we did a whole podcast on Science Fiction University on this one, but it's really good. It's a murder mystery across time and space. You'll enjoy it or you won't, but we did, and you really should. You know,
and you should go and check out, after you've watched Bodies, go check out our podcast about Bodies.
On Bodies. You want to talk about Only Murders in the Building, which is now just a machine.
Yeah, it's just a machine.
Yeah,
and Steve Martin singing, and Martin Short singing the song about which of the triplets did it.
Right.
You can just go look at that on YouTube. It's just remarkable. Yeah. And you have to get something in your heart to really be able to successfully satirize it.
Yes.
They get Broadway.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Absolutely get it. Yep.
And half the people on their show are Broadway actors brought in for.
And of course, it's just a machine. And we loved it.
And then occasionally they get a superstar actress to show up and be.
Oh, Meryl Streep, she's kind of good. Yeah.
Yeah, she does her thing. But it's a good show, and we enjoy it, and it's reliable. Now.
So upset that Perry Mason was canceled on HBO. This is one of those things where, I don't know what the writer's strike and the actor's strike did to this whole thing where people get really paid for a show in the third season. And so that made them cancel a lot of shows after 2 seasons.
I know it was an expensive show to make, and it didn't get that big of an audience. And I don't care. I mean, I realize
we don't care. We want more Perry Mason.
It was a really good show, and it was thoughtful. It was a little bit like, here's the lesbian character, and here's the gay character, and here are their side stories. But it all felt natural.
Yeah,
it didn't feel like they were cramming in agendas and attempts to make people happy in the 2023. No, this all felt like these outcast people, these misfits again, who had come together and were doing good in the world, and they were all tortured souls, and we cared about them all, and it was really good, well written.
And we're just mad that this show isn't on anymore.
I want more. Now, I don't think
let's speed run through the rest of our list here.
I don't think there's going to be a Picard season 4. I think that pretty much ended it, but by season 3, I watched season 2 and 1 lightly, like 1 or 2, and like, nope, I don't like this at all. season 3, they finally figured out what we wanted as fans, and they gave it to us. So bless their hearts. They wanted the crew of the Enterprise back on the Enterprise, doing shit and winning, and that's what we got. And that's enough for me to recommend Picard season 3, but not season 1 or 2, which kind of sucked. Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian season 3 is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Ted Lasso season 3, another Juno Temple triumph, and Hannah Waddington can sing, baby.
Waddingham. Yes.
She
can belt out a tune. Yeah. Yes, she can.
Another case of like, here's this actress who's doing a good job doing her thing, and suddenly she opens her mouth and, oh, that's right. These are all 5 tool players.
Full package. Yeah. Yes. Hijack, Idris Elba is not the snake on the plane.
No.
He's the genius on the plane who has to deal with hijacking.
That's taking place over a number of hours, and there's 1 hour per episode. And it's it's
that clock is ticking the whole time. It's well done. It's a show.
Yeah,
and it's well done.
We liked it. Loki season 3 was meandering and kind of flat until the last episode when they figured out what they want to do with Loki, and then it turned into something interesting. I'm kind of thinking there probably won't be a season 4 of Loki. I don't know for sure. I'm not in their heads, but it was a show that started off with a bang and kind of petered out a little bit. But the last episode was like, okay, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good use of the character Loki.
Yeah, and maybe we need, if they do a season 4, maybe we need to do a podcast on Loki.
Yeah, it'll be worth our time then, I think, Blue Gal.
Yeah. What did you think about the Continental from the world of John Wick?
It was okay. It was all right. I didn't need it in my life. I watched it. It was, okay. It's all the origin story of how it came to be this thing. That's fine. It was well made. You could tell.
I want to give kudos to set design on that one.
So much
amazing set design. Yeah.
So it's okay if you skip it. You won't miss anything. You'll still understand why John Wick goes around shooting people.
Oh, and that was the other thing. I was like realizing that I was going to tell somebody that the Continental was very violent. I'm like, what the hell am I saying? It's John Wick.
John Wick.
If you don't know that it's violent, if I have to warn you that it's violent,
what
the hell am I saying?
Star Trek Strange New World Season 2. This is a quote. Season 2, Episode 5 is awesome. Spock becomes human. The last few shows have been hilarious. I love the comedy and the real messages. I am laughing like crazy on Season 2, Episode 5. Now, Episode 9, Subspace Rhapsody. They bring a Broadway level type musical to the show. Somebody figured out Star Trek.
Yeah.
What we liked about Star Trek. And they did a pretty good job of filling this show with the Star Trek vibe. Also some weirdness. They threw in cartoons. They made a musical episode.
And I'm telling you, you get how much fun they're having. Yeah. How much fun the showrunners are having.
Yeah.
Saying, you know what? We're going to bring the people from the cartoon of Star Trek onto this show.
Right.
And there'll be a portal.
Right. That'll do that. It'll be I think it's the City on the Edge of Forever portal.
Whatever portal it is. They find a way, and you don't care. We don't need to know the tech stuff. And it just works.
It's not all slapstick silliness, but they have enough. Like, you know what? Who cares? Let's have some fun. There's an episode of the original series called The Trouble with Tribbles, which is not serious or world-ending. It's fun and weird and cool, and written by David Gerrold, as I recall, and it's a blast. They have some fun with this. Plus, the characters are pretty good. I think they're running out of runway because eventually we know what happens to Christopher Pike. So
right.
They're running out of time to do this. But so far, it is the most Star Trek show of the start. It certainly has Picard season 1 and 2.
Well, and they spent a lot of time in season 1 of this Strange New Worlds with the angst of Christopher Pike knowing that something bad's going to happen to him down the road.
Knowing his fate. And there's a lot of time travel, timey-wimey stuff that is like, okay, I get it. You have to do that to move the plot forward. But the pleasure that someone is taking in creating this series makes it kind of fun for a Star Trek person to watch. Unless you're like one of those people that this isn't real Star Trek, in which case that's fine. It's not for you. But it was for me, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we loved it. Yeah.
Now, do you want to talk about the Gilded Age, honey?
How much I hate watch Gilded Age every week because I hate watch it. And it is wealth porn. And it's cartoon wealth porn, and I can handle 19th century cartoon wealth porn because it's just bad. It's just nothing happens in this show. People chewing up scenery left and right. Yep. The set design it's Gilded Age. It's over the top wealth, going to Newport to these mansions. Everybody has a bustle. And there is a gay character in this show who has an arc that I actually cared about the tragic part of his story.
Right.
And I will say that. I want him to find happiness.
Right.
But other than that, I just hate watch this.
And it's a soap opera. It is an absolute over the top.
I make you sit there next to me while I'm using my lymphedema pump and hate watching Gilded Age.
Yeah.
Because it's on right before John Oliver. So. Right.
It's fine. And I will say this, it's such a soap opera that when a character comes down with a slight twinge in their back, and go, oh, they'll be dead in 2 episodes.
They'll be dead.
Yep. And you know what? They were dead in 2 episodes. Or he'll be in
a coma.
Yeah.
Like in a soap opera, he'll be in a coma and all these things will happen around him.
If it was a woman, it would be pregnant, with twins from her cousin or something.
That person's going to die. That person's going to get run over by a carriage.
Yeah.
That person's not going to marry that person. That person is wrong for her. Oh, you can tell.
It delivers on all of that.
And it delivers on all that soap opera BS.
And I'm like, okay. Now we're going to breeze through a few of these. Scott Pilgrim takes off. We'll get to it at some point. Haven't watched it.
It's on our list. Yeah.
It's on our list. For All of Mankind, I started to watch it, and I had to take a break because it was just, it didn't fit in the schedule, and something's got to give. I liked Justified, the TV series, very much. I thought it was very good. Justified City Primeval, taking Raylan and putting him in Detroit and making him a character in a novel that he doesn't belong in. It sounded good on paper, I'm sure, but it just didn't work for me. I got 2 or 3 episodes in and said, you know what, this ain't working. This ain't working for me. And I had to give it up. I'd love to see more of the life and times of Raylan Givens, and I'd like to see him solving crime, but this just didn't work. Beacon 23 had some of the Silo vibe to it.
Yeah.
But it just was too...
And it has Cersei Lannister in it.
Right. So it tried. They spent money on it. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
No, we tried it. We thought, we do a podcast called Science Fiction University. Right. So when something comes on that takes place on a spaceship,
right,
we definitely give it a shot because it's content.
In other words...
And we watched 2 episodes of this like, we know where this is going, and
we did it for you, okay? We did it for you. And it wasn't very good. And we're not going to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
White House Plumbers, I started it, but you know what? I know how Watergate worked, and it's fine. If you like that sort of thing.
Well, and it was a lot of, again, scenery chewing.
Yeah.
Actors playing
that's fine.
Scenery chewing people.
And that's fine. If you dig that, that's good. None of this is saying don't watch this stuff. It's saying that we didn't watch it because
it wasn't for us.
The Foundation season 2, as we did a whole half a podcast on how the Foundation, they spoiled it by breaking the law of psychohistory. The whole premise of the show is based on a thing that they violated in the first episode, and I can't get into it. It's beyond me. I don't want to watch it, and I'm sure the acting's great. I know they spent a lot of money on it. Just doesn't work. House of the Dragon, same thing. I'm not interested. I don't care. There's a million other things to watch. If you want to watch dragons, blowing each other's heads off or whatever they're doing, that's great. It ain't for us.
Now here are some ones that everyone watched but us. So if this is something that you really love and you think we should devote our time to it, please let us know. And do it by email.
Right.
proleftpodcast@gmail.com is the best way to reach us.
Right.
Succession, Barry, Yellow Jackets, The Boys. We did watch The Boys season 1. I thought personally it was very violent.
Yeah.
And that it was a little too much for me. Ahsoka, Jury Duty, The Wheel of Time, Daisy Jones and the Six.
Yep.
And then we did start going to the movies.
I know.
This
Isn't
year.
that great? We did.
Not all the time, but every once in a while.
Movie/TV. I mean, there's stuff that we went to movie and stuff that was in theaters, and we watched it on our little box at home. But
we went to see Godzilla at the theater. Godzilla Minus One.
Yeah, of the many Godzilla movies, very good movie.
A very human movie. Lots of human drama. The monster is believable and good special effects. But really, the story between the human characters is what keeps you in the seat.
And it is the original Godzilla movie. It's the
Yeah.
OG. Godzilla is not a friend of humans at
And he's
all.
not Mecha Godzilla.
No, he is not. He's not who you call up when Gamera's in town. You need someone
No.
to fight him on your. No, this is terrifying. And Godzilla is genuinely terrifying in this movie.
Yeah.
He's really.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah. He's a nuclear bomb. He is destructive as hell. Yes.
and he feels real. And when you find out this movie cost $15 million to make, like, you should do 10 of these because you're really good at this. And it's I'd like to go see it again. It's one of those movies I'd like to see
the
again.
time of it, that the post-war Japan is depicted in such a careful, beautiful way.
Yeah.
Really well done.
It's really well done.
We saw The Holdovers in the theater.
We did, and we both liked it.
We both liked it. And it's again, not overly sentimental.
No.
That's what I liked about it.
It's set in the 70s. The opening credits are 70s credits. The pop and whistle and
the
screen
music
is
in it.
70s.
Yeah.
The screen is like, what's wrong? Oh, you're doing it as a 70s movie. Okay, that's great. And it was true to the time. And Vietnam features pretty prominently in this movie,
Yeah,
which
it
hasn't
does.
happened in a long ass time. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Awesome movie. Awesome movie. You should go see it right now. It's really, really good.
We saw Asteroid City in the theater.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Kind of like it.
The children in that movie
Yes.
are
Great.
beautifully cast.
Yes, they are.
And it's the casting is everything. Casting is everything.
It's hard to tell who the director is just by watching it. You know, it's,
No, it's not.
no, it's really, really not. This is
Well, this is a Wes Anderson movie.
yes.
But he takes great care with the casting, and some of his old favorites are in it.
Yeah.
And then these children, and to me, the children in it give it such a heart twist that I just loved. I just loved that part of it. We saw Dream Scenario.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage's best performance.
Nicolas Cage. Yeah, amazing performance. I thought it was difficult to watch.
Yeah. It was.
It's a weird movie.
It's a weird movie. It's a weird it is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind weird.
Weird. Yeah.
It's pseudoscience. It's a character who's not in any way sympathetic at all.
Nope.
Who things start happening to, and then bad things start happening to, and then the movie's over.
Yep.
But it's I am delighted people are taking big swings at weird movies like this.
Yeah.
And apparently Nicolas Cage, this is one of the scripts that he read and said, I must do this movie.
I must do this.
I must do this movie.
And I felt that way about The Holdovers and Paul Giamatti, who I adore.
Yep.
I adore Paul Giamatti, and he makes this movie with zero sentimentality.
Oh yes.
It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I made you watch Barbie last week.
Right. I didn't want to. I resisted. No, you wanted to go see Barbie with your girlfriend.
I saw Barbie in the summertime with two children of mine.
Yes.
We went to see Barbie
together.
And I thought it was incredibly subversive. I thought the ending was the most subversive ending of any movie I've seen ever.
Yeah.
And so we watched it this week in preparation for the show. So, sir, with all of your patriarchal power and influence, tell us what you thought of Barbie.
I real hard on the guys. It was so hard on the men. You know, like, what do we have to do to make you ladies happy? You know, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was great. I thought it was really. There's a thing where you talk about a company that's real and a product that's real, like Tetris and other stuff that just rubs me the wrong way. Except this didn't, because this really knew what it wanted to say about women and about patriarchy and about capitalism and about politics and about controlling your own body and about what it means to be a misfit and an outsider and what justice looks like. And I thought, God damn, this is a really good movie. I hope it wins all. And of course, what was the one comment they put in there about this is the wrong actress to play this part.
Yeah. She's worried about not being perfect enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, we realize, the narrator says, we realize that Margot Robbie is not the person who should be saying this line. Right.
We get it. You got to willing to suspend disbelief, you know. It's a very good movie. And I really enjoyed it. And I can see why it did what it
made
did.
$1 billion? Yes.
Made $1 billion. And I'm glad it did. I'm glad it brought people back to the theater.
Well, and the casting,
reason.
again, the casting of the child, the daughter, in the human world, in the real world. Beautifully done.
Impeccable. Yeah.
Very,
Casting.
very important to get that role right.
Casting.
Casting.
The Flash, not good. Watched it, not happy with it. I will not be seeing it again. It just, it hit me the wrong way. I'm glad Michael Keaton got to come back and put on the bat suit again and be Batman for a minute, but I was, no, I could have done without that, and that's all I'll say about that.
How about The Burial?
The Burial was, I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. It kept making interesting left turns. And it was recommended by your dad. It's about a guy who owns a funeral home, who is cheated and who is out for justice. And it really works. The parts that are in court, the parts that are like, outside the realm of, the action parts, I could have, whatever. But when it's just those actors talking to each other, it's really good. And it's a true story. And that's what made it kind of extra special. So I liked it. I wasn't like, beating the drum for it and demanding everyone go watch it. But I really kind of enjoyed the interactions, the quiet interactions between the actors. I thought they were very good.
We watched The Killer on television.
We did.
And it's just it is such a simple story. And it's about an assassin. The soundtrack is all Smith's songs.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a fun choice. And it's a revenge story, I would say, is a very simple plot, but very well acted. And Tilda Swinton's in it. So,
yeah, she is.
It's got a weird element to it.
Yeah. Michael Fassbender is the assassin. I don't know that he's ever called anything but the killer. I don't know that his character even has a name.
It's really a simple story.
Yeah. And once again, you could hardly tell it's a David Fincher movie, except for the fact that it's screams of a David Fincher movie.
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's good. It's not nonviolent.
No, it's about an assassin, so it is not nonviolent. But it's a simple story, and it just goes through this simple story and tells the story, and competently so.
And it moves at a breakneck pace.
Yeah.
And there are fight scenes that are really good. There are hacks into getting into people's homes that are really good. It's all very well constructed. And I will just say that the idea that part of the first part of the movie takes place in an abandoned WeWorks building.
It's funny. There's lots of little funny things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
We watched Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which is
fun movie.
Fun. Forgettable? Yes. Fun. Absolutely. It's a fun movie. And I never thought, again, Dungeons and Dragons, the only other movie I know about that was some Tom Hanks movie from the 70s that was terrible, that he thought he was in the thing and he almost commits suicide. And it's the go-to movie for terrible satanic panic sort of movies from the 70s. And it's the one Tom Hanks would rather just buy all the copies and burn. It's a game. And this is a really fun, good movie. I enjoyed it. And
you have a Saturday afternoon and, you have teenagers around, you need something to watch together. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Which now they're not going to call Part 2 anymore. No, it's not coming out for a while because of the strike and other issues.
That's fine.
Had a good motorcycle stunt in it.
It was a Mission Impossible. It was very much a Mission Impossible movie.
It's a Mission Impossible movie. Yes.
It has.
Yes.
And a lot, there are AIs showing up on a regular basis in movies now. They show up in this one. They showed up in Murder at the End of the World. And I can understand that. We did a whole episode on why AIs are great villains. And you might enjoy that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And late to the party, we watched a movie called Coherence from 2013 that was really good. And we really enjoyed. And it's a really good example of writing a movie for your 6 actor friends that takes place in one house. And you can do it on a shoestring. And it's like, this is what happens when you're creative and you're thoughtful and you think in terms of... And
you write a good script.
Yes. It's like a haiku. The limits on your ability to make this thing is what makes it memorable and interesting.
Good COVID movie. I mean, there will be a genre called COVID movie.
Oh yeah,
And this is one of them. Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say about the Mission Impossible, going back to Mission Impossible for a minute.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
One of the characters that I just love in the Mission Impossible movies is played by Rebecca Ferguson, who we started the show off talking about Silo.
Yes.
She's really good in these movies in terms of being in love with the Tom Cruise character and not accessible to him, and the tension of that. And I like her in these movies. Yes. And so that's something to watch for.
She's a really good actress, and really, again, as you said at the very beginning, this is the year of really good actresses acting really well.
Female actors being absolutely fantastic on the screen. Yeah, it just is.
Now, a list of movies we haven't watched yet, which is going to go on for just stuff that okay, really
that
quick.
Are on our list, maybe, right? Yeah. And some of them definitely.
Yeah, John Wick, Chapter 4, haven't seen it yet. The Marvels, we'll see. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, probably not going to watch that, but Blue Beetle, I might catch that late night on cable at some point.
While I'm asleep. That'll be when you watch. That's the kind of thing you watch at midnight while I'm up.
Wake up, honey. It's Blue Beetle. It's very exciting.
No, he doesn't do that.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I understand, was a nice send-off to that group. It has a lot of animal violence or violence done to animals in it.
Something to that, yeah.
Tough to watch. And there were 12 other things to watch, so I skipped it. Indiana Jones and Medicare Part D.
Yeah, we skipped that one, even though it has the woman from
Fleabag.
Yeah. We didn't watch it.
Didn't watch it. Maybe one day, if my completion anxiety gets a hold of me, I'll watch it, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Saltburn. Nope.
It's on enough lists of people just hated this movie.
Yeah.
That it piques my curiosity a little bit, but not enough to spend my time on it.
Exactly. Killers of the Flower Moon is I'm sure a tough watch. It's a long watch. I will watch it.
My dad went to the theater and saw it.
Yeah.
But he's retired.
Yeah, exactly. And someday someday I will complete my oeuvre and I will watch it, but not this week, not before the end of this year. I also didn't watch Oppenheimer. Again,
Oppenheimer's on our list though for watching at home, and we did go along with that meme of Barbenheimer of Barbie was us podcasting in 2010.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer is us in 2023 as podcasters.
Well, and I know the story of Oppenheimer pretty well.
Oh yeah, the history of it and so forth. Yeah.
I had a nameplate for my office at Columbia College that said Leslie Groves, who's the guy who ran the Manhattan Project and built the Pentagon and was kind of an asshole. But his thing was, at least at the time that I understood it to be, I'm not the smartest physicist in the world. I'm not the best scientist, but I know enough to organize geniuses and get them all pointed in the right direction. And that I felt was my mission at Columbia College. I was not the greatest artist or tech there, but I knew how to organize them and make sure they all got along and did what they were supposed to be there. God damn it. Keep the Coca-Cola away from my fucking computers. Boom. Did not watch, but are definitely going to watch Poor Things.
Poor Things is on our list.
Wonka, probably going to watch that.
Wonka, probably TV at home, I would say.
Dumb Money. Yeah, that's 1 o'clock in the morning watching it on cable. Okay. A Haunting in Venice, got mixed reviews. It's okay. Yeah. Again, if you want to, if there's
I've seen the other ones, and Agatha Christie is, all right. Yeah. It'll fill a couple hours, maybe. One
thing we are definitely going to go see, American Fiction.
Yeah, we're waiting for that to come to Springfield, and unfortunately, Aquaman and Color Purple the musical have taken over our local cinema. So
2 things which we're not going to see, but
it's 2 things we're not going to go see.
Well, and American Fiction is about a writer. I mean, come on.
It's about a writer and the publishing industry and faking your way through. So we're really excited about that one. Yeah. One of my New Year's resolutions is to keep in better touch with our listeners and be a little better about podcast correspondence. And in order to do that, I realize, everybody talks about the thing to do for your New Year's resolution is learn to say no.
Right.
No. The no I'm going to say is that in order to do what I want to do, to accomplish, which is to stay in better touch and respond better to our listeners when they reach out to us. If you want us to answer you back if you have a question for us or something about the show, and I'll say this again in another show just so we kind of get the word out. If you want us to answer you back, either email us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com or send us an actual letter to our P.O. Box, which is at the beginning of the show. It's also at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can contribute to the show. Our address is there. Our email's there. Anyway, you want to reach us. If you go to proleftpod.com, you can find our email address and our USPS, Go Postal Union's address. I can't, there's 7 different social media websites, and I'm on all of them, but I can't keep on top of them by myself. It's just not possible.
Well, we'll get the staff working on that right away.
We have no staff.
Oh, that's right. It's just you and me. It's still just you and me.
This is the year, God bless her, Angel Nerd went off to other projects, and we love her. So Tammy, thank you. Thank you for all you've done for us. And,
thank you so much.
So really grateful for your contribution to our show. And so I am, I'm on all these places once a week to promote the show. I am on Patreon every week to promote the show and check your messages and get them. But if you need an answer from me, write me a letter or send us an email at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. And I will, my New Year's resolution is to keep on top of those 2 arenas.
Yeah. And just to be clear, about 80% of the emails I get are ones that don't seem to require a response. They're informing me of something.
A lot of people send us ideas for the show or news items that they want us to see, and it's tremendously helpful. And here's a cool link that you might like. Sometimes it's a link to Crooks and Liars, which makes me laugh because, as many of you know, I'm associate editor at Crooks and Liars. So
yes, and I
already saw that post.
And this week I'm doing the roundup. So yes,
you're doing Mike's Plug Roundup. So
I'm familiar with the Crooks and Liars internet traditions.
Right.
But I mean, there are people who will blitz us with 5 emails a day.
Which is fantastic because usually one of those is something I need to see, at least.
Yeah. But if it's something you need a response to, you need to reply to, I don't mean to be flip, but thank yous are implicit. Thank you for writing us. I really appreciate it. I appreciate it immensely. But there are lots of unanswered emails in my email bag. And
because they don't seem to need a response. Yeah.
And because I'm like, I don't, I feel like if I respond, I'd be cheating you if I didn't write 6 paragraphs.
Well, that's the thing. He always wants to respond to an email with a Driftglass answer, which means, an 11 paragraph long
I have to sit and meditate. And part of that is just me being a terrible correspondent.
Yeah.
But if you require a response, please let me know that what do you think? Or end it with a question mark. Yeah. If you're just passing along information, consider yourself thanked and thanked immensely.
Yeah.
And
just remember, this isn't Midas touch over here. There's just the 2 of us.
There's just the 2 of us, and I will be busy for the next couple of weeks watching Killers of the Flower Moon shot by shot, breaking it down, scene by scene and actor by actor, because that's really our wheelhouse is breaking down movies for you. And there's a million other podcasts that do that. This is just
there are many other podcasts that do that, and Driftglass listens to many of them.
I do. When I'm moving around town. When I'm doing laundry, probably have a podcast on our old-timey radio. If you'd like to know what Superman was up to in 1936, I'm your guy. Let me just say, Superman was pro-union, pro-immigration, and pro-minorities.
Yes.
Vocally
and equal
so
rights
on
for
the radio.
Everybody. Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of wild how woke Superman was in the 1940s. Anyway.
Well, this is the end of the year. We're going to skip Internet Kitty and all that this year and just say thank you for all you've done for us. And Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, they're stepping aside. Well, actually, they're napping because they're very lazy. Just so that you and I can say thank you for all the support you give us throughout the year and all the stories you share with us about what you're doing and what brought you here. It really does make this feel like a community. It makes it feel like it's a 2-way communication, and we're all in this together. And I value that immensely, especially going into 2024, which is going to be lit.
2024, Blue Wave.
Yep.
Rock and roll. Driftglass, I love you. Happy New Year.
I love you too. Happy New Year.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
I prefer Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2023 DGBG Productions.